Have you ever heard the saying, too many cooks spoil the broth? Well, imagine that, but instead of broth, it's a sacred temple, and instead of cooks, it's a group of powerful, prideful tribes on the brink of war. This is the story of a conflict that nearly tore a community apart, and the brilliant, simple solution that brought them all together. This is the legend of the stone in the temple. Our story begins in Mecca, many years before the holy mission of the Prophet Muhammad. At the heart of the city stood the Kaaba, a place of reverence and pilgrimage. At that time, it was a simple, roofless yard enclosed by a low wall. The tribes of Mecca, united in purpose, decided it was time for a grand renovation. They planned to rebuild the temple, making it grander, with higher, thicker walls, and, for the first time, a roof. It was a massive undertaking, a symbol of their collective devotion. The work began with great enthusiasm. Each of the major tribes took responsibility for a specific section of the wall. Carefully, they began to dismantle the old structure, stone by stone. One stone, however, was unlike any other, the sacred black stone. This revered relic was built into the eastern corner of the Kaaba. With the utmost care, it was removed from its place and set aside on a clean cloth, waiting for the day it would be returned to the new wall. The tribes worked diligently, clearing away the old stones until they reached the very foundations, said to have been laid by Abraham himself. Then, the rebuilding process started. The new walls began to rise, stronger and taller than before, a testament to their shared effort. Everything was going smoothly until the walls reached the height where the black stone needed to be placed. And that's when the trouble started. Suddenly, the spirit of unity vanished, replaced by a storm of pride and ambition. The question was simple, but the answer was anything but. Which tribe would have the supreme honor of lifting the black stone and setting it back into its sacred position? "The sons of Makhzum should raise the black stone," one man declared, his voice ringing with authority. "It is our right as the foremost of the tribes." His words were immediately challenged. "Who gave you such a position?" another man shot back. "The sons of Jumah will raise it, no one else." The argument escalated quickly. A third voice joined the fray. "Not while the sons of Abdu Manaf stand here. The honor should be ours and ours alone." The air grew thick with tension. Cries of defiance echoed around the construction site. "Then you will have to fight for it," someone shouted. "None but the sons of Abdul Dar shall even touch the stone." What had begun as a collaborative project was now on the verge of becoming a battlefield. The tribes, once partners in building, were now squaring off as rivals. The dispute grew fiercer by the hour. Alliances were formed, threats were made, and swords were being drawn. It seemed inevitable that blood would be spilled over this single, momentous honor. The very ground that was meant to be a sanctuary was about to be stained by conflict. Work on the Kaaba came to a complete halt. For 4 or 5 days, the tribe stood in a tense standoff, their pride preventing any resolution. They were so close to fulfilling their shared goal, yet so far from peace. Just as the situation was about to explode into open warfare, a wise elder named Abu Umayyah stepped forward. He raised his hands, calling for calm. "Brothers," he pleaded, his voice cutting through the angry murmurs. "Let us not fight among ourselves. This is a house of peace, not a field for battle. I have an idea." The men, weary from the days of arguing, quieted down to listen. "Let us leave this decision to fate and wisdom," he proposed. "Let us agree that the very next man who comes through the main gate of the sanctuary will be our judge. Whatever he decides, we will all accept it." It was a risky proposal, but the alternative was a senseless war. After a moment of consideration, a murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. They were tired of the conflict and desperate for a fair solution. So, they put away their weapons and all eyes turned towards the gate. They settled down to wait, a tense silence falling over the once noisy yard. Who would walk through that gate? Would it be a man known for his wisdom? A man from a neutral tribe? Or someone who might favor one side over the other? The fate of their community and the completion of their sacred temple hung in the balance. resting entirely on the identity of the next person to arrive. Minutes felt like hours as they waited. The sun beat down on the anxious crowd. And then, a figure appeared in the gateway. As he stepped into the courtyard, a wave of relief and recognition washed over the crowd. It was a young man, well known and respected by all the tribes in Mecca. It was Muhammad. Even at this time, long before his prophethood, he was known for his impeccable character. They called him Al-Amin, the Trustworthy One, and As-Sadiq, the Truthful One. His reputation for fairness and integrity was legendary. Seeing him, the tribesmen felt a collective sense that their problem was about to be solved. "It is Al-Amin! It is the Trustworthy One," they said to one another. "We will accept his judgment." They quickly explained the situation to Muhammad: the rebuilding of the Kaaba, the honor of placing the black stone, and the bitter dispute that had brought them to the brink of violence. Muhammad listened patiently, his expression calm and thoughtful. He heard the claims of each tribe, acknowledging their pride and their desire for the honor. He didn't dismiss anyone's feelings or take sides. He understood that this wasn't just about lifting a stone, it was about respect, status, and legacy. After everyone had spoken, a silence fell as he considered the problem. He looked at the stone, then at the proud, anxious faces surrounding him. After a moment of quiet contemplation, Muhammad spoke. His solution was not a complex legal ruling or a declaration favoring one tribe. It was something far more elegant and profound. "Bring me a cloak," he said simply. Confused but obedient, one of the men hurried to fetch a large, sturdy cloak and brought it to him. Muhammad took the cloak and spread it carefully on the ground. Then, with his own hands, he gently lifted the sacred black stone and placed it right in the center of the fabric. He then looked at the leaders of the feuding tribes. "Each tribe will choose one man," he instructed. "Each of these men will take hold of an edge of this cloak." The tribal leaders looked at each other, the brilliance of the idea slowly dawning on them. This way, no single tribe would have the sole honor, but rather, they would all share in it. Each major clan selected a representative, and they gathered around the cloak, each man taking a firm grip on a piece of the edge. "Now," Muhammad said, "all of you will raise the stone together." Following his instructions, the men heaved in unison. The cloak held firm, and the heavy black stone was lifted from the ground, carried by the collective strength of the once warring tribes. They carried it together to the eastern wall. When they reached the designated spot, Muhammad himself stepped forward. He guided the stone from the cloak and with his own hands set it perfectly into its place in the wall. The honor of the final placement was his, a neutral and respected party, but the honor of lifting it belonged to everyone. The moment the stone was set, the tension that had gripped Mecca for days dissolved completely. A sense of relief and satisfaction spread through the crowd. Every tribe felt their honor had been upheld, no one was left out, and no one had lost. They had worked together, just as they had at the beginning of the project. Muhammad's simple, inclusive solution had not only prevented a war, but had also restored the spirit of unity and cooperation. All the tribes were satisfied, and the work on the Kaaba continued peacefully with no further disputes. This legendary act of wisdom solidified Muhammad's reputation as a man of unparalleled judgment and peace, long before his divine calling would change the world forever. And that is the power of creative thinking and empathy. A problem that seemed impossible, one that was about to cause immense bloodshed, was solved with a cloak and a simple idea: share the honor. It's a timeless lesson that when we feel divided, the best solution is often the one that brings everyone to the table. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of wisdom from history, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.